Hi, everyone, and welcome to Rising Stories Podcast. I'm Corrine Sandifer, your host. Each week, I invite you to listen as I chat with business owners and authors about the dynamics of building and running a business and how these writers became published authors. We also delve into topics that we can all relate to, such as work-life balance, living with intention, and dreaming big. As these women share their stories with us, it's my hope that you will be encouraged to live out your own story. So please spread the word and tell a friend about this podcast. It's no surprise that I love podcasts myself because you can listen as you sit in traffic, walk your dog, or cook dinner, or even work out. Wherever you are listening, thank you so much for joining me today on Rising Stories. And don't forget to find me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm at Corrine Sandifer on both Instagram and on Twitter. My guests today are a team of two who are heading up a ministry called Dauntless Grace. Megan Hall and Deedra Mager found women with stories of redemption, healing, and freedom. They then decided to share these stories and their own stories with other women who needed to be freed. They are meeting these women where they are and helping them move out of their broken stories and into an authentic community. They began as an online community and then started a blog where women faced those hard questions and became vulnerable to walk dauntlessly in grace. Listen as Megan and Deedra share their road from blog posts to writing a book to holding conferences for women who wish to walk fearlessly. Here is my conversation with Megan and Deedra. So you both are running a ministry called Dauntless Grace.
Yes.
And tell me how this came about, how it was birthed, how you started this ministry, and describe like who are you impacting with this ministry?
Well, about 2 years ago, I was in a Facebook group, and a bunch of the women had awesome stories to tell, stories about how God had healed them, or stories of redemption in their own lives, how they'd found freedom or saved their marriages or released shame. And I thought, well, we need to tell our stories. So Dauntless Grace Ministries was born out of that concept, and then for the last 2 years, it's been online as a community and a blog for women to share their stories. But this past summer, Deedra came on board with me, and we are directing this ministry now that we are taking into churches, and we're producing conferences to connect with women in the church to help them connect to a different story, a new story.
Oh, wow. That's impactful. I mean, that really could impact people because what you mentioned with the healing and the redemption and releasing the shame, those are things that, every woman, I think, at least one of those things touches their lives for sure.
Right. Definitely.
Wouldn't you say? And so how do you go about reaching out to these women online? And of course, when you're going into churches, you're doing conferences, and so they're actually coming to you guys. But how do you reach them online?
Well, online, there has been a blog that's been a weekly thing for the last 2 years, as Megan mentioned. And there's also small groups that would meet either on location in their own home, if someone was doing it on location like that, or I personally was part of a group that met on Zoom, and we would meet on Sunday nights and all get on from all over the country, and we would go through some of the small group curriculum together and ask those questions and pray with one another. So that was the beginning of it. Because the message, though, of connecting to a meaningful story is difficult for people to grasp if they've never heard that they can have a new story, that's when we wanted to take the tools that we were using in our own relationship and in our own local church and get them to other women and really encourage them that God can turn what you have lived through into redemption, and he can give you a different tomorrow and a different outcome than what the cycle that we kind of get trapped in.
And since so much of what we were doing online was in the context of community, we want to take it into churches so that women can find that new story in the context of their personal communities within their church walls and their hometowns, things like that.
And so, Deedra, are you finding any, like, are there any resistance to coming into the churches, or are they welcoming you guys like, yeah, come on in because we need this?
Well, we've started really small, so we've started with people we know. We're not knocking on the doors of mega churches that already have a fully developed women's ministry. We find a lot of churches, at least at the kind of level that we are attending, that mid-level church, it's not a mega church. They don't usually even have a fully functioning women's ministry in existence. They may have a Bible study once a week or an event once or twice a year. So we're coming alongside that kind of church where we have relationship, where we have people that attend there that are saying we need this message in our church, and where we can help the local church that doesn't have an existing women's ministry, jumpstart something like that, jumpstart the conversation. And then we hope to provide the tools for them for after the conference so that they can continue that community where transformation is lived out.
And what kind of tools are you talking about?
Well, we have a Facebook group that people can join after they've been to the conference. So we're developing that now, asking some of those hard questions that get you thinking, get you more transparent with one another, get you thinking below the level of conscious where we all live, to really start asking the hard questions of your heart. Then we have a curriculum that we're putting together, a small group curriculum. So if a church wanted to have maybe not your typical Bible study, but something that kind of gets to the heart of the matter and still pulls on the truths of the Word of God, then that curriculum would be available. And then there's also just the resource to the leaders to say this is how you can foster community in your church. So we want to give them tools as well.
And so your main message is, your main message is just the redemption, that Christ offers, which isn't a new thing, but I feel like you guys are putting you're entering in, sort of that Brene Brown, bringing her in where it's, being honest with each other, right? So you're opening yourselves up and saying it's okay to open up and share.
And it's interesting that you mentioned her, because one of the hallmarks of her teaching is, you have to get vulnerable. Shame loves to hide in the darkness. It loves to hide in the places where we foster it in our mind and we make up these stories about ourselves, these narratives that aren't really even true, but they're based on a lot of pain, past hurt, past experience, because that's just the way that our brain is wired. If I touch the stove and it's hot, I don't touch it again, right? When we experience relational pain, we do the same kinds of things. So we first have to get people aware that they are even living something that is not vulnerable, that they're even living in a state that is not transparent, that they're actually living really cloaked up in self-protection. And so that awareness, that can be difficult because you can't just go into someone's life and start, pulling it all apart. But what we find is the grace of God is so precious and so gentle to do that work. And in the context of community, then we can kind of hold each other through that process of stripping away the old story and replacing it with vulnerability and transparency and grace and redemption, and knowing that I don't have to secure life for myself because I can walk in wholeness and God can give me life that can be freely given to other people.
Those are great stories. Those are great things to say and to do, and to embrace that person, which is just about every one of us has something where that we want to hide from everyone else, that we want to protect, that we are ashamed to bring it to the light. We all have something. And so I can just imagine that it is well received. And when you see someone being vulnerable, then we're all are like, we can do this too. We can open up and shed light on our fears and our shame and live triumphantly, like you were saying. So that's really cool.
Well, and I think that what you just said, that, hey, me too, I've also experienced that. That's a huge thing to start knocking down walls. So when people start sharing what they're experiencing, going through the process of healing they're in, other people are like, oh, I'm not the only one. That's me too, you know? So that is definitely a hallmark of Dauntless Grace. And it gives us the ability to walk in that fearless grace that is provided to us, because we're not afraid anymore when we see other people are walking that journey as well. Which actually is the reason why the book we wrote, Walking Dauntlessly, is titled that. How do we dauntlessly, without fear, walk into a new story? Well, a lot of times it's taking somebody's hand and journeying that with them and saying, we're going to do this together, no matter how hard it looks, because on the other side is redemption. On the other side is a new story.
And so once they have reached that and they're walking in it, and you have, I guess, quote, success stories where people are walking dauntlessly, and do you then say, hey, can you lead a group, or how does that, where do they go from that point?
That's a good question. So one of the things that we've been saying for a while now is that freed people free people. Mm-hmm. So Jesus said that he came to give us freedom, but he didn't just give us freedom so we could just stand around and be free. He gave us freedom so that we could pull others into that same freedom. So maybe that's starting a new group in your hometown and pulling other people into that journey. Maybe it's volunteering with a social justice organization. Maybe it's finding a foster child that needs to come into your home. I think there's a lot of different ways to live out freedom, and it doesn't mean that you have to turn back and do the same thing, like the same thing that you've always done. I think there are lots of different ways to reach out and extend freedom to other people.
Mm-hmm. And you guys are running this organization and this ministry, and you guys have busy lives too, because tell me, Deedra, you have children in your home, you have 4 of your own, and you've taken someone in. And tell me about who they are and what your life looks like.
What my life looks like right now is a really crazy Google Calendar with a lot of overlapping boxes.
Oh my gosh, I'm impressed you're doing a Google Calendar.
Oh, that is the only way someone doesn't get left somewhere.
Whoa.
Yeah, we have, there was those days when they were all toddlers and babies where I just wanted to get out of the house so badly. You know how that is in your potty training and nap times and snacks and feeding and all that. And now they're all school age and teenagers, and they're just always on the go. And so I pretty much am a glorified taxi cab driver. And so we spend a lot of time in the car in the evenings. My oldest, Cole, is 17, and he just finished basketball season at the Christian high school he goes to. And he's restoring a 66 Mustang with his dad. So that's kind of a, touch and go, whether he's driving it or not, depending on how it feels that day. We have a 13-year-old, just turned 14-year-old girl that's in 9th grade. And she's one of these that, just the sky's the limit. She's a competitive athlete. She's going to go to an Ivy League school and become a lawyer. Like, she sees no obstacles in life.
Awesome.
So she has lots of energy and embraces every day. Our other daughter is about to turn 13. So they're just a little over a year apart. And she is in a competitive dance team, and I am homeschooling her this year for the first time. And she is actually enjoying that. I think next year she'll be at the Christian school where her siblings are. But this year we've got a little extra time together, and I'm really liking just having that one-on-one with her. And my youngest is 9. He's in 3rd grade, and I'm also homeschooling him. And we adopted him from Ethiopia when he was an infant. So we actually just celebrated the finalization of his citizenship oath just last week. So that was kind of the last little hurdle we had to jump to finalize everything for him. So that was exciting. And yes, we do. We have a 13-year-old girl that is with us, with our family since last May, almost a year. And she is also in 7th grade. And we are just finding that story of redemption in her life. What it means to walk out of some old lies and old beliefs and old hurts and pains and begin embracing God's love for you in a new way. Mm. So we do, they all have something they do, and we run them around. I hope that in the middle of all the busyness, we're still conveying that love of God is the most important. I'd like to say every evening is family devotion and quiet time, but it doesn't happen around here often.
It's tough. Yeah. I find that when you're in the car, it helps. Like, there are little pockets of conversations, right? Where you can talk about God and share some nuggets of truth.
Definitely. And even just them processing their day, that's really where I think it sinks in more than anything. Mom, this girl said this, or this is happening at school. And we just talk about, well, what is the appropriate way to handle that? What does the Word of God say about this situation? What is the ethic that's not the situational ethic, that your friends are embracing? And so those are all the ways that biblical worldview is imparted and translated to the next generation. And we just try to embrace that in our everyday conversation and life. So not perfect at it, but we're trying, and I love seeing them become lovers of Jesus as well.
That's great. And I totally envy you with that, the one that's 13 and doing competitive dancing. Is that what you said she was doing?
Yeah.
And homeschooling, those two go hand in hand. I love that combination because sometimes that's the only way to do it. I mean, when they're doing some
late nights and crazy weekends. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It helps that you can homeschool and, do work anytime, or get it done. Check, you're done for the day. So that's great.
Yep, that's good.
Megan, what about you? You are a busy mom as well.
Oh, I am not quite that busy. No. My oldest is only in 3rd grade, so I'm homeschooling her. And she dances, but this is her first year of dance. So it's just, 45 minutes a week, but she loves it. She told me today that she's a ballerina in training. Aww. So, that's been fun to see her kind of thrive in that area. But I also have a toddler at home, a 2.5-year-old daughter. So I am still stuck in the throes of 7:00 bedtimes and, potty training and snack time and all that fun stuff. So I am not running around as much with teenagers, but a lot of noise still in the house.
Yeah, I always say that, I love those days. I didn't think I loved them, but I love them now from afar, of those days where they didn't have their own schedules. Mm-hmm. And now, where we could make their own schedule, or we could say, we're going to go to the zoo today, or we're going to meet with some friends. But now they're just, like in Deedra's case, they're all running different directions. But you have a, did you say a 2.5-year-old?
Yes.
Wow. So when do you even have time to work on your ministry, and much less to, like, you guys have written a book. So when does all that take place?
Mostly between the hours of 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. after she goes to bed, before I get to bed. So, but also when I homeschool my oldest in the mornings, my husband is still at home. So he keeps the baby away from us, and we get a lot of work done in the mornings before he goes to work. So that's good.
Oh, that's priceless right there, where you can get some stuff done and homeschooling without interruption with the toddler. Yeah, I did that for a few years, but I'm not as fortunate to have someone to take the little one. But it's hard. It's you juggling. Yeah, so. That's great. Well, so you're doing a lot of your writing and stuff in the evening. What about you? So, Megan, did you write the book yourself, or did Deedra contribute as well?
Yeah, we co-wrote it.
You co-wrote it.
And it's a book that is telling our stories. So we've both walked this road of finding a new story and finding healing. Deedra walked it before I really even met her. And so she tells her story of her process in that. And then I kind of join in, and my story is connected with hers because she was instrumental in helping me and pulling me along in that journey. So then when I tell my story, it's talking about how in the context of community that really fleshed out.
Yeah. And I think that is probably like one of the main things that you guys are promoting, is just that community, that sense of belonging, that it's okay when you have community and you figure out that the next person next to you has hurts and fears and shame and has had healing, then that person can help the other. So y'all are a beautiful example of what your ministry is all about.
I would say yes, and behind closed doors, it's not always beautiful.
Tell us about that. I want to know all about that.
It's true. It's like any close relationship. You have the hard days where you really process through something, but because you're unafraid to go there, you end up having a really sweet communion on the other side, because you're not living, trying to avoid things with each other or trying not to trigger things with each other. You really try to be who God's called you to be instead of the person you've always tried to act to be. And that's a journey, and it's really cool to get to the other side of it with someone and have that type of unity with them,
Yeah.
So we have very different work habits, very different work styles, and it's fun because we end up complimenting each other in that. And so the things
and stressing each other out.
Well, maybe a little bit, but
and sometimes you don't know you're complimenting, but you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always say sometimes with hard conversations, sometimes really good communication comes from, bad conversations and harsh, words. But then in the end, you end up with a really good communication, state where you can get some things across and the relationship becomes better. So I'm glad that y'all are, being real with each other, because you're practicing what you're preaching, number one. So, and exactly. You're, just getting into that deeper relationship where, we shouldn't be afraid to connect and communicate with another person on a deeper level, and to show them our faults, where we are not doing, we don't measure up or whatever, and just kind of sharing that and being vulnerable. I'm sure that happens.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think a lot of times when we meet people, we project a story out there that we think they want to see of us, a lot of different ways that can happen. For me, it was a lot of perfectionism. So I didn't want anybody to see me make a mistake, because then they might throw me away and see me as useless. Other people come right out and they think they're an open book because they tell you everything that's wrong with them. But that's just a deflection mechanism too. So I think we all do it. It's just that we take on different, it cloaks itself differently for all of us, depending on what we think serves us best in not getting hurt, not getting thrown away, not getting rejected, whatever the word is for us. And so the more that we can be aware of what that story is that we're projecting, the more we can really be honest about, on purpose, not walking into that over and over again and saying, okay, I'm not going to live in that lie anymore. I'm going to speak truth to it, that I can make a mistake and still be loved, or I can be seen as flawed and still be accepted. I can be seen as not perfect and still belong. And so those things, in the places where people fail us, God's love is, unfailing, never ends. And so being willing to walk in that security of belonging to Him first, and then moving into other people's worlds to bless them, to minister to them, and not extract life from them for where we feel inadequate, that's a huge journey, and it takes a lot of trust in God to do that.
Yeah. That's great. Did you guys see some of the pitfalls that maybe you're encountering as we all do in starting a ministry or a business? Did you guys get some good advice on how to start a ministry, how to do this Dauntless Grace Ministries?
Yeah, we were actually we went to a conference this past summer in St. Louis called Launch Out, and it's basically an inspirational conference for entrepreneurs and startups and writers and people who want to move to the next step of whatever it is they're doing. And they've been around for about 3 years now. They do conferences every summer, and we got to go to this past summer, and we loved it so much that we actually applied to do an intensive workshop with them. So in September, we flew out to Colorado and met with 7 other people who were ready to launch their new thing, and 3 experts in the field. And so it was just an intense week of getting marketing advice and branding advice, and here's what you do, and here's your 12-month action plan. And since we've been back, we've been in a mastermind with all of these awesome people. So we've had a lot of encouragement and support around us as we've been launching this.
And what did you guys learn? What was your takeaway from that you were like, oh, this is the best advice ever?
I think it was really honing down our message so that we knew specifically what we wanted to do. Because, with women's ministry, it's been done 1,000 ways. It's been done 1,000 times. It's still being done all over the place. What was it that God was calling us to speak? And we really came out of that being able to say, we're trying to connect women to a meaningful story. And just coming to that one sentence took a lot of conversation and a lot of hard work, because it was filtering through all of the other options of what we could do and really saying, okay, God, what is it that you want us to do? And so I think we came out of there with more clarity than anything, even though, the specifics, the how-tos, that takes time, discussion, trial and error. It was just the clarity of going, okay, this is who we are and what our purpose is. And everything that we decide to do then is going to serve that purpose and not sidetrack us just because it might be a good idea or maybe someone else is doing it successfully. We don't have to be somebody else. We can be who God's called us to be and just live the story we know and have walked in our own life. And that can be a tool to set somebody else free.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, just to clarify, that's great advice for any business or any ministry starting, even writing a book. There are hundreds of books being written every day, and how is your story different? How is your business going to impact people differently than the next business? So that's great advice.
Yep, the marketing gurus knew which questions to ask, I guess, and we were the beneficiaries of that.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. Yeah. So how long was the intensive in Colorado?
It was about 2.5 days with everybody just meeting, but we spent about a week there just kind of playing in the mountains.
Oh, fun. Nice. Yeah.
And the best part is we walked away, we were doing a mastermind with that same group. So they still have us on track to do weekly assignments. And we've got a lot of feedback from our mentors in that area. So that's been helpful because they kind of, just downloaded a lot of information. And then we got to walk it out with them helping us. I thought that was
great.
Good.
Yeah. I love mastermind groups. I'm about to start a new one this month, actually, with a new group here in Nashville. I'm super excited. And I've always had, advisors and people that spoke into my life about what to do, but mastermind groups are the best. Yeah. Especially if you...
And I think...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the connection of... the experts have been great, but the other people who are launching with us, they've been just as valuable to us. One of the ladies actually joined our board of directors for the nonprofit. She's a marketing guru herself, so she's been able to really help us. Another lady was launching her speaking ministry about showing women their value and belonging. So she's come to our first 2 conferences and has been able to share her message from our stage, which has been great. Another guy he does technology, so he has been helping me with website questions. So the whole connection of all of it has just been perfect for us.
Yeah, that was worth all the money, right? I mean, when you're thinking about, and doing a business, it's worth getting great advice. And I do love that they're continuing with that mastermind group online because you can, dump files online. I love those Facebook groups because you could put files on there. I don't know if y'all do that, but those are really fun to just be able to connect with other people, other like-minded people. And it sounds like you've got a plethora of people that can help you in all different areas of your business. That's awesome.
Yeah, we've been really blessed by that. Although if you know anyone who's an expert in graphic design, we still need somebody that can help us a lot there.
Oh, I do have someone that has graphic design. So I'll be sending that your way. So awesome. For sure. Yeah. Well, tell me, ladies, I know we talked about Google Maps. What is your favorite app on your phone? And y'all each have to answer.
Oh man. You mean besides Candy Crush?
Yeah, Candy Crush is fun. I mean, you could pick that.
I honestly spend most of my time reading, so I guess my library app would be my favorite app on there. It doesn't help me get anything done, but it sure helps me get all the books I want.
What do you mean library app? Like your library has an app and you can go on there and reserve your book?
Yeah, yep.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so not really productive, but I love it.
Well, you're a reader, so yeah, you have to have that. I mean, it's easy. Yeah. What about you? Deidre?
Well, my Google Calendar is my most used during the day, but I actually just have like this Pinterest fetish sometimes. I go through phases with it, but we're moving right now, so we're going to redesign our kitchen and living room space a little bit in the new house. And so I have quite a board going with all the ideas. And every time I show my husband, who will have to eventually make these things happen, he's super excited about that.
Oh, yeah. I love Pinterest. You know how I use Pinterest in the morning sometimes? Or the night before when I think, okay, what is clean? Okay, I have my black slacks are clean. And so I'll put in like black slacks outfit. Or I might have like a black slacks and maybe a red shirt. And then it shows me like outfits. And I was like, oh, I have a scarf like that. I think I can put that on there. So it dresses me.
Oh, that's a pretty good idea. I use it mostly for things I'll never do. Like I have a board of really crazy purple hair, and things that I think are gorgeous, but I won't have the guts to do, or crafts that I never intend to make, and recipes I probably will never actually make because they require more than, 3 ingredients. So I'm more of a wannabe Pinterest junkie.
Oh, that's fun. I used to do that too. I'm sure my boards are just jam-packed full. When it first started, I was just going like crazy. But now I don't even pin those outfits. I just look and see what.
Use it to look. That's a good idea.
Just go, what goes with green. I have a pair of green pants I love. What goes with green pants? Outfits. And then I'll just like, oh yeah, I have a blouse that looks similar to that. Or I'll put it on my like, ooh, I want to get a shirt like that. So I'll write it down and maybe I'll get it. But yeah, I love Pinterest. It's great.
Very cool.
And I have an app that's not my library app, but it's connected to my library's audio books. So that's one of my favorite apps. It's connected to that. So I totally get the whole library app thing. Yeah, you don't get much done, but it's fun. What are you guys loving these days? Have y'all discovered anything fun, new that you're obsessing about?
You said something earlier in our private conversation about acupuncture, so I'm going to see a chiropractor right now. That's kind of a nice highlight of the week.
Yeah. What does he do for you? Like back, neck?
Yeah, both.
Injury?
Yeah, a little bit of neck problems and some back issues. I actually started going to him because I had really bad vertigo for most of the year last year.
That's no joke.
Yeah, it solved that, and
wow.
it took us a few months to get it under control, but it's good now. And in the meantime, find other issues, of course, that are always out. So that's been fun.
I am obsessed with Madam Secretary.
Yeah, I could jump on the bandwagon too.
I found it. I guess this is the 3rd season, but I didn't start watching it until this past summer. I caught up in all 2 seasons, and then I watched all of them again over Christmas break just to catch up again, and I'm completely obsessed with it. So,
how many seasons are there?
It's in the middle of the 3rd season right now.
Okay, that's
and
doable.
You have to understand we were major West Wing fans, and when that's been off the air for quite a while, so this is filling that hole for us. We feel like we're really important people when we know what the Secretary of State does, even though I really don't know, but it's really cool.
I'm learning a lot about geography too.
Our lack of knowledge of geography.
I think I'm going to put that on my queue. I'm in that hole where I've already finished. I started one that someone recommended and I didn't like it at all. And I'm not even going to mention it, but it was gory and nasty, yucky. But, and so I'm kind of thinking, I just finished a series, so now I'm looking for a new one. Actually, there were 2. I did start Young Pope. I didn't like that either. So
I don't know that.
Life's too short. If you don't like it, you just stop. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to watch the whole season. So, Madam Secretary, I'm going to have to check that out.
It's on Netflix.
Cool. I will do that. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming on. This was fun. I enjoyed getting to know you guys or to know you guys better because we've been in groups together and on Zoom connections. So thanks so much for sharing your story with us and blessings on your business and your ministry. Your business on the back end is what I always say to people who have ministries, because you have to run it as a business, but then your ministry when you're out there and connecting with the people. Such a blessing.
Thank you for having us.
It was good to talk to you again, Corrine.
Wow, I love when women rise up to help other women be all that they can be. I also loved when she said that freed people free people. So powerful. Deedra and Megan are giving away a copy of their book to Arising Stories listeners, so head over to my Instagram to enter the giveaway. If you do not have an Instagram, you can still enter to win if you sign up for my newsletter before March 18th, 2017, when the contest ends. This giveaway is only open to North American listeners who are 18 years and older. If you heard something on the show that you wanted to jot down but couldn't, no worries, because all the information about this show and Megan and Deedra will be on the show notes at CorrineSandifer.com under Rising Stories Podcast. Thanks for listening, and keep rising in your own story.